So I used to work with Hillary Mason. She's a pretty well-known data scientist, and one of the things I kind of learned from her is that she said, as data scientists, our job should be to make machine learning boring. And so the idea is that um, some of the best technologies that we use today are the ones that sort of just blend into a regular workflow and provide a ton of value. And we don't really know it's there, but it's just there helping us. A good example is things like maps. I rely a lot on Google Maps, and so it's just something that's just there. I take it for granted. It's pretty reliable. It's dependable. I don't have to worry about it. It's just there providing value. And so I think good ML powered experiences should aspire to that level of just being boring, blending into our workflow and providing value. And one recent example is email autocomplete. So Google Gmail email autocomplete. I use it at first. When it first came out, I'm like, hey, but this thing worked really well. Would it blend into my workflow? But now I find that, a lot of times I accept the suggestions that it makes, and it achieves that nice goal of reducing the cognitive burden of typing out things. Sometimes you also see recommender systems that essentially they recommend things that make sense, like you're trying to purchase stuff and you see recommendations that make sense. I think these are well done applications of machine learning. Again, to allude to, I think some of the points that Hart made about two types of ML applications, there's the ones that are low stakes and high stakes. And so for low stakes, it's mostly open and interesting. But when you start getting into high stakes applications, then I think a lot more thought about the ethics and the safety aspects of things need to be considered really carefully. And so one good rule of thumb that we like to think about at Fast Forward Labs is just how might this affect human welfare? Is there a chance that what I'm creating might adversely affect human welfare? And so I think we all know about tons of examples here. Say incorrect identification on facial recognition systems can, if used incorrectly, maybe used in some high stakes environment, can cause a ton of problems. Say medical applications of AI. So I think people building systems like this should spend a lot of thoughts on just making sure that you don't affect human welfare negatively, and this could turn out to be failure cases. There was also a nice example at the last Google I/O where they talked about a new feature in Google Photos. So Google Photos has this nice thing where sometimes it will organize some of your photos into memories and present them to you, maybe generate some video or GIFs. And they sort of talked about this situation where there were some things that users might want to forget, let's say a previous relationship or a relative that passed away, that sort of thing. And the way that thing was built previously was that you didn't have the opportunity to turn off certain features or control it. And so even for low stakes scenarios like that, there's also opportunity for failure. And so a good solution there would be to just think a bit more carefully about what that space could look like and at least offer some control to the user.